Hello there. Today's video is going to be kind of tough. It's about my best friend who died of cancer, and I just wanted to tell the story. This is what led me to the journey of YouTube, and you'll see why. So my best friend was like a sister. I had a small family. My mother and father passed away. My sister, long story, but I think she's passed away. We really are not in touch. I met my best friend in 2014. I was dating her brother, and our relationship didn't last, but mine and hers did. I moved into her house because I was having trouble meeting my needs for paying rent, and I needed a cheaper place to stay. So she rented me a room for a phenomenal price, a wonderful price, and we became friends during that journey. We lived together, we did everything together, we'd run errands together, we'd do stuff for each other. It was just the most wonderful relationship, is what I want to call it. We were best friends and we knew each other like the back of our hands. So through good times and bad times, sharing things that we sharing things that we excelled at and things that we decelled at. So we were just really good friends. Anyways, during that relationship, I was introduced to a very special man, and our relationship flourished, and Sarah was wonderfully happy about that, and they became good friends too. Um, Through a couple of years of going on vacations together and sharing life. She had two kids. I was really close to them as well. We did everything together. We were like family. Then I was able to move into my own home. And it was wonderful that I could get out of the house and have a regular relationship with her instead of living with her. But we continued sharing each other's friendship. I know this sounds weird, but that's just how it was. One day, Sarah had a boil in her vaginal area, and that's like a sebaceous hair follicle got infected. She went to a corner clinic to have it looked at, and they lanced it and gave her antibiotics. I won't say what this clinic was, it's nationwide. I just call it a corner clinic for this video. But after a few weeks, it didn't go away. After the antibiotics were done, she still continued having an infection. So I got her set up with my nurse practitioner, and she went in there and they did a biopsy on it and sent it off. Well, it came back as squamous cell carcinoma. It was vulvar cancer. After going through many PET scans and other testing, they found out that she was in stage 4. So what they lanced at the corner clinic was a lymph node. It had spread, and the lymph node became inflamed, and she thought it was a boil, and that's when they lanced it, and it actually probably spread it more throughout her body. We went to the local cancer center, and they basically were not very caring as how we felt. They told her that she needs to make her plans, that she'll be gone in 4 years, and she needs to make secure a future for her kids. That was so devastating to us. Um, it was terrible. And on my thumbnail, after we left that cancer center, we stood outside of that cancer center, and that's where we took the picture of my thumbnail, because we decided we're going to fight this. We're going to get this taken care of and cut cancer out of Sarah's life. After that, she went to Duke University, and they basically told her the same thing. Make plans. This is a devastating cancer. You might have 5 years. Make plans for your kids. It's just the same thing. So she got her port put in her chest for chemo. And then we decided to go to Cancer Centers of America. We went to Atlanta, and it was the most wonderful place we have ever experienced. It's like an open arm. Once you come in, you just feel all the love. Everybody smiles. You know, I've had bad days, and I'm a nurse, and sometimes I don't carry my smile around all the time. And at this cancer center, they totally were nothing but positive people. It almost seemed like a cult. I know it sounds weird, but like we're thinking, how can everybody be smiling when they're dealing with all these people with cancer? They had support groups. They also rented out 10 or so rooms in Hilton's and Comfort Inns for their patients to stay at. So Sarah was able to stay in a hotel room while she was visiting there. They had lots of support groups. Their food was phenomenal. They focused on holistic healing and not the negative part of cancer. So we were able to go there for almost a year. Sarah was a professional. She was a regional manager of a very large restaurant chain. She was an executive. Most executives were men, and she was one of the few, if she was one of the few women that was an executive there. So she went on medical leave, and that lasted for probably about 6 months. And then the insurance was declined for Cancer Centers of America. By the way, that place was so great that even the doctor would text her or call her and talk about treatment. I mean, who does that? Who does that? Not very many. It was the most wonderful experience, and if anybody can have that experience, I totally hope they can. But it gave her hope. She went through several chemos and radiology treatments there. And then we came back to home, and she had to start going to MUSC, which is in Charleston, South Carolina. MUSC is wonderful. It wasn't Cancer Centers of America, but it was a wonderful place. And being a university, they're spot on with every treatment. We would go there for chemotherapy. She'd stay there sometimes for a week or so. They also have a house that they give patients to stay in, and it would cost like $30, if not free. You could bring your food there. They have refrigerators for each patient to use so that they can eat their own food, or they can go out to eat if they feel like it. Hopefully my microphone didn't just mess up when I touched my chest there. Um, anyways, um, after 4 years of fighting cancer, Sarah met her demise at MUSC. And I'll never forget, I was working the night shift at my hospital 3 hours away. And I went there after I had that day off. I woke up and I went to the hospital, and it was getting close to time for her to go. So I spent the evening there with her and her family, and I wish I could share the pictures. I don't know how to edit, and maybe I'll get them in sometime after this video is posted. But I remember holding her hand, and I took a picture of it because I knew, as a nurse, I'm a registered nurse, I knew she only had hours. And I'm holding her hand, and I look in her eyes, and I tell her, I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And I really didn't think I would see her tomorrow. I knew it was soon. So I drove back to my home and slept and got ready for my night shift. I woke up around 2 o'clock, and her sister called me to tell me that Sarah had passed away. I'm not going to cry. It was the worst damn day of my life. that I lost this person, and I didn't want to believe it. And I just kind of turned inside out. I got through her funeral. I continued. I had taken off so many days, I had to continue working and working as a hospital nurse. And going into work was really tough because you heard all those beeping machines and x-ray coming down the hallway, and it reminded me of nothing but what Sarah had been through and that she had passed away. So there's 5 stages of grief, and I'm going to read them because I can't remember them in order, but it's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So I was in denial. I wanted to text her and say, hey, what are you doing? And I knew that I couldn't get her answer from her. So I'm like, I'd go to the text and I'd have to back out because I knew I wouldn't be able to talk to her. And I kept all my texts, and I still have them from 4 years ago. I have them in my phone. I'll never delete them because that was my last link to her. And it was terribly upsetting. If you've lost a family member that was real close to you, this is how it felt because she was like my sister. I mean, we were soulmates, friends. It was devastating to me. Then after the denial, I went into anger. I was mad at God. And I said to myself, and God, why did you take my best friend away from me? How can you do that? She was such a wonderful person, never did anything bad, always had a great attitude. And it reminds me of the song, Only the Good Die Young. She was 47 years old and had 2 kids still in school. And I'm like, how could you do that to them? How could you take this person away from us? She's a good person. When there's so many bad people out there, why Sarah? I, you don't get an answer from God, but I guess sooner or later you do. Bargaining is number 3, and I really don't feel like I went through any bargaining. And with grief, you're not going to go in order of these things. You might deal with number 5 after number 1, and I didn't hit a bargaining state of grief. So there was nothing to trade. She was already gone. So really, I didn't experience bargaining. But the main thing I experienced for most of the time was depression. And I totally shut off everybody. I shut everybody out of my life. And I'm lucky that I had a good partner that was always there for a strong hug when I cried, and he was always there supporting me. He never got upset that I was just so depressed. He was always uplifting, and he always is. He's always positive, and I love him to death for that. He was just a wonderful person, and he dealt with me the way he needed to. He did a lot of the chores, did a lot of the cooking. I would function by going to work because I knew I had to focus on my job. And after work, I became a recluse. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I pushed everybody away. I was working night shift, and if you work night shift, it already feels depressing. You're working all night and sleeping in the daytime. Well, even on my days off, I wanted to sleep. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. And how it affected my health, my muscles became weak because I wasn't moving around. All I wanted to do is sit and sulk. And I became weak. I gained weight. I My depression continued, and I knew as a nurse, I have to make things right with myself. I have to get out of this funk. Otherwise, I'm ruining my life. I felt guilty if I laughed because Sarah was dead. I couldn't have a good time because she's not having a good time. And that made me feel guilty. I'm sure she's having a good time up with God right now. but it just made me feel so guilty to laugh again. And finally, I'm trying not to cry, sorry. I'm a school nurse now, and I'll explain that in another video why I left bedside nursing, but I'm a school nurse now. And 2 years after Sarah passed, we had a puppy come into our life. And it's a German Shepherd. He was 8 weeks old. I was still in my funk. My partner had lost his dog. And at first we got that dog for him because he loved his dog and I wanted him to replace this dog with a new puppy. So it was in May. My summer vacation was coming out in June. And we decided to go for it and take this puppy on, even though both of us were working. And we worked it out to where we can get him trained before I was, or get him trained enough that we could both work. And then I'd have the whole summer to train him. So, I went through my cards here. So I began training him through the summer. It got my mind off of my depressive negativity. I was able to get out of the house before, other than work, I went nowhere. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to put makeup on. I wanted to stay in my pajamas and just sleep. And depression just totally took me over until that dog came into our life. And through the summer, my mindset started changing because I knew I had to take care of this little guy. And if you have a German Shepherd, you have to train them. They're wild. They're so full of energy. So I began training him, and that's what saved me. That's what saved me from depression, and it's a good thing. And I think God gave him to me for that reason. So I trained him and he grew and he grew. We went through 3 cages because he'd grow in size. And just taking care of this dog set me free and helped me to get to number 5 of grief is acceptance. And I was able to accept Sarah's death because I was in a different mindset. So that dog saved my life. He saved my life. And I just want you to know that what if I didn't have that dog? I just don't know what I would have done. I know that I would have, as a nurse, I know I need to move on and make things better. I didn't go to counseling because I'm a professional health worker and I didn't want that on my record, you know? I didn't want that in my record, and I'm in a small town. I didn't want to go to a doctor and people find out I'm seeing a psychologist or a counselor. I just felt uncomfortable with that, and it's being vain, but that's how I felt. But I promised myself in my darkest time that I was going to come out of this, and I worked on it. But I should have went to grievance counseling. I should have seen a counselor, and there's no other thing I could say about that. So if you are going through grief like I was, I would hope that you would get help, because I didn't, and it took me longer. It took me 3.5 years to get over her. Not to get over, but to get over the fact that she's gone and that I need to move on. And that's a long damn time, and I should have done something different. But thank God that God sent my dog in my life, and now he's my best friend. And dog friends are better than people friends, other than Sarah. So I just wanted to share this video. I wanted to show you my experience, tell you my experience with grief of somebody very close to my heart. and how I handled it and how I should have handled it. And I hope that if you do ever feel this way, please get help, because you might not be a nurse. You might be something else that you don't understand medical theories or had psychology training in your lifetime, and you just need help. You've got to go to, even if it's grievance counseling for a little while, you got to go get help. And I'm thankful that I'm here to share with you, and I want you to hopefully get through things better than I did. And this is the reason why I wanted to start my YouTube channel, 60 Insane, because I had to make myself mentally straighten up, clean up my act, get out and show up and be a person again. So hopefully you learned something from this. If it gave you any value, hit the like. Please share in the comments if you went through the same thing and how you dealt with it, who it was, if it's a parent or a friend, um, any type of loved one, because that's what we do. We connect and we love people. And when we lose them, it's a major stressor. It is a major stressor. So I feel good that I can cry about this, and I'll get over it in 15 or 20 minutes and stop crying after I press stop. And I'm here for you. So please share. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.